tell you also that he has a Sheriff's Department helicopter immediately overhead as well. They're being very careful how they talk about this on the radio because they are well aware that he has the radios turned up, and they're pretty sure what frequency he's listening to, but they can't take any chances, obviously, and so they're jumping around on different radio frequencies, trying to kind of, communicate without him understanding where they're, what they're doing. But in the meantime, yeah, we're continuing eastbound on Rinaldi, heading towards the 405. It'll be very interesting to see if he decides to get back onto the freeway here. And again, we're not exactly sure where this all started. We believe this was the Sheriff's Department in Altadena, the LA County Sheriff in Altadena Station, that made their way up towards the Newhall Pass, and then again back down from Santa Clarita, back into the San Fernando Valley. So he's kind of made a U-turn here, heading back over towards the 405, which could take him north back into Newhall Pass. We could be doing circles here, or he may be just navigating this immediate area. He is the very first car. Yeah, and that's going to be we believe that's a Tahoe. That's a Sheriff's Department black and white Chevy Tahoe with the lights flashing, and then I would count about a dozen units right behind him here. Right.
Is the car that you're looking at right now.
And your description of the driver here, did you say a psychiatric patient? Is that what you said?
We believe it's a psychiatric patient, possibly missing some clothes here. He may be at least shirtless as far as we've been able to determine. And then you have a very loose description. I'm sorry, stand by, Vince. Stand by 1 second. So yeah, no, I'm sorry. He's got numerous weapons in the vehicle from what we're being told here. Obviously, sorry, stand by 1 second.
No, it's okay, we understand.
And
yeah,
just so
numerous weapons in the vehicle. I'm hearing that those weapons are believed to be locked up in the back. So it's not clear that he's got weapons at the ready by his side there, but obviously these Sheriff's Department vehicles carry numerous weapons along with them at all times, and they are presumably locked up in the back.
All right, is it still on Rinaldi, still heading eastbound toward the 405? And I think we see the 405 right now.
Looks like he's going under Havenhurst now. We're coming up on the, that is the 405 right there, actually. So he's going under the 405.
Now, that will not affect the 405 traffic, which, by the way, is quite heavy this morning, as usual.
Check that. Check that, Steve. That's actually the 118 at the 405.
All right,
so he just
okay.
went under. Yeah, he just went under the 118, and now we're going southbound. Looks like it's going to be Havenhurst that he's on right now. Southbound Havenhurst, under the 118.
All right, so this is the northernmost San Fernando Valley. This is an unusual situation, as you're saying. You make the point here. You're looking at this black and white. You think it is leading the chase. It is the chase. It is the point of the chase.
And obviously very confusing to people who are on the street right now. You know, they're getting out of the way, which is one good thing, but that is the car that police, sheriffs are actually following right now, is that sheriff's vehicle that was apparently stolen. And we're hearing from someone in a psychiatric ward?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It was from a ward?
Yeah, we're trying to get that information. He's apparently from one of the local facilities in the area. Not sure if this was an escapee of some sort, or if they were trying to place him under arrest for whatever reason. But we do understand he was a psychiatric patient. Obviously somebody very unstable. Appears to be stopping for the stop sign there, stopping at the red light. So he's obeying some of the rules here.
Has he been speeding?
But he did venture over the yellow line just a short time ago.
Has he been speeding,
his behavior in driving. He's been doing a relatively, normal speeds. Now we're in kind of a residential neighborhood, and he seems to be slowing down just a little bit. For a while, he was speeding up the 210, and this was definitely a high-speed pursuit. They didn't really have the choice of calling this off. You know, LA County Sheriff has one of the more conservative pursuit policies in our area here, but in a situation like this, they have no choice but to track this guy down and make sure they don't let him out of their sight.
And Chris,
obviously, under the circumstances, he's armed, and obviously, in the vehicle that he's in, is just too much of a threat, obviously.
And Chris, do we know how he was able to steal this sheriff's vehicle? Were the keys in it? Was someone in it? Do we have any inclination on how this happened?
Well, one would presume that the keys were already in it, but details surrounding how he was able to get a hold of this vehicle is a mystery as far as we're concerned.
Really
At this
taking
point,
off
we just
right
don't
now,
have that information.
increasing
Speeding
speed.
up a little bit.
Yeah, they're
Yep,
getting a little aggressive.
Continuing southbound, and he is picking up a little bit of speed here. We're going to be entering the North Hills area. He does have the option of going just 2 blocks over to the west and jumping on the 405, but for the time being, he appears comfortable. Now, we may be looking at a possible pit maneuver here if he slows down just enough where they feel comfortable doing it. You know, he'd have to slow down to about 35 miles per hour is the target that they're looking for in order to be able to give the go-ahead on that pit maneuver. But it does look, just from this vantage point, that unit behind him is pit qualified and may be preparing to do that. Looks like they might cut him off here.
There.
He's making a right turn. And there he is. He's continuing the pursuit, now coming towards us. This is going to be westbound. We'll try and get across street, possibly Nordhoff.
And I can see why the
West-
sheriffs would be aggressive with this, because there are weapons in this vehicle that this person stole. So again, we're looking at this front sheriff's vehicle is the one that sheriffs are chasing right now. And it looks like they're actively becoming a little more aggressive and trying to stop this guy.
It seems like that, Chris. We should reemphasize. It's not that the driver has weapons per se. There were weapons that were in the vehicle and perhaps
It looks like they're
locked
about-
in the trunk.
They're trying to do a pit maneuver.
Yeah,
They might be going a
you're
little too
exactly
fast.
right. You're exactly right. I could think of so many situations where
this.
they would just back off a little bit, maybe put this in surveillance mode. That's just not an option in a situation like this, where they have. He's basically, those patrol cars are heavily reinforced vehicles. They have. They can do tremendous speeds, can do tremendous damage, and obviously the weapons that are on board that vehicle, they just don't have the choice of letting him out of their sight. And so it's all hands on deck by the LA County Sheriff's Department. CHP joined at one point, and I guarantee you that the LAPD is all over this as well. But again, this is the LA County Sheriff pursuing one of their own vehicles stolen a short time
You're
ago,
watching Good Day
possibly
LA,
near
Chris.
Altadena.
Let me clarify for folks. It's Good Day LA right now. It's 7:09 here on Fox 11. This pursuit, which we think may have started in the Altadena area, is going on now. There's a little bit of game playing going on where the driver tends to slow down, and in hockey you would say you deke the other sheriff's car and speeds up again.
We're following the first sheriff's vehicle right there. That is apparently a stolen vehicle. So when you're looking at this, you want to say, okay, is that one of the cars that's chasing someone else? It's the car to the right, the furthest sheriff's vehicle to the right with its lights on.
Unusual situation. They're driving parallel to each other right now. The one in front on the right, as you say, that is the vehicle being chased. It's very misleading to look at.
And
Also unusual to see these guys pursue side by side like this. At one point, I saw one of those pursuing officers even jump into oncoming lanes himself to get around the traffic. It looks like they're going to try and cut him off here. So this is a very unusual tactic. I have not seen this in quite a while. They're literally trying to cut him off and get in front of him. We've seen pit maneuvers in the past. We don't often see where they actually try and box him in from the front, but that's what they're trying to do here. It looks like now they're going to have to catch up to him once again. But when they see an opportunity to get in front of him, that appears to be the tactic that they're taking for whatever reason.
And Chris, this is interesting as well because, we see these pursuits happen all the time and the person being chased is blowing through lights. Well, everyone is stopping before he blows through lights because he has, the sheriff lights on. He's probably has, the horn on and all of that stuff.
Absolutely. If you're one of the drivers in this traffic right here, you have no idea what's coming up behind you. It has no signs of a pursuit. It just looks like you have a bunch of cops coming up from behind you on the way to another emergency. So you just don't realize
stopping. That bus just stopped, probably full of school kids.
Exactly. Just to update you here, we are continuing southbound back on Balboa Boulevard towards Roscoe. So we just crossed or coming up on Roscoe, just past Parthenia, coming up on Roscoe is going to be the next intersection. And it does look like he's slowing down. Fortunately, we're not seeing too much traffic here in the valley this time of the morning. You would expect it to maybe be a little bit busier. Certainly the freeways have been. Almost came in contact with that car right there. I'm not sure if he collided with him, but it looks like he may have skirted around him. But yeah, he does have a little bit. When he gets to a little bit of traffic, he sees the brake lights. He goes around him. Now he's weaving through those cars that are stuck in this traffic. This is basically this is a This is the This is Roscoe coming up now.
Oh, it looks
So
like he's
we are
about to
in-
get stuck in this. He's going
Oh,
up
now
on the
we're on the
sidewalk
curb.
right now.
Yeah, up on the sidewalk.
Oh.
Obviously, a desperate situation. This man is desperate to escape authorities, and they are desperate to get a hold of him. This is a wild pursuit, a high-speed pursuit through the San Fernando Valley as we make our way now through Northridge. Looks like he's going westbound on Roscoe with numerous officers right behind him. But this guy is obviously showing some really erratic moves, driving very recklessly. And, when we see them jump on the curb like that, that is a really red flag,
This
not
is
only
as
for
fast
us,
as
but for the
we've seen
authorities.
him going right now.
Yeah, he's definitely picking up. You do see the occasional spotlight there, the night sun from LAPD. LAPD joining the pursuit now, along with the LA County Sheriff's Department and CHP monitoring his every move. As we make our way now further into the valley, we're going away from the 405 now, Steve.
Extremely erratic behavior from this driver going up on curbs. When you look at it, you think, oh, it's just a sheriff's, police car going up on these streets. But this is just a guy who stole this sheriff's vehicle, has the lights on. People are pulling to the side when they see it. We saw a school bus go by. If he didn't have these lights and in this sheriff's vehicle, it could be
Might
much
see
worse
another
than it
pit
is right
maneuver
now.
here, possibly another pit. Now we have an officer in front of the vehicle in question there. So now he's backing up. He's going to ram into another sheriff's vehicle. Here we go, guns out.
Shoot out the tire.
Okay, shots fired. Shots fired by LA County Sheriff's Department. He is now speeding. He's continuing on. So this is why we don't see this very often. Very peculiar tactics here as they tried to cut him off, pulled right up beside him. The officer actually exited the vehicle as he was moving. This guy got desperate. He rammed into another vehicle behind him and then kept going. As he continued the pursuit, one of those officers who exited the vehicle fired his weapon into the driver's side of this pursuing vehicle here. So this vehicle, this driver, I should say, obviously in a very, very desperate situation to evade authorities, and now we have no idea what kind of a condition he may be in. But we can say for sure that shots were fired as he tried to get out of that situation.
And Chris, what's also interesting in watching this is that, as you said in the beginning, the Sheriff's Department tends to be a little more conservative in their pursuits. This is not conservative at all.
This is the least conservative thing I've ever seen, maybe by any agency ever.
Well,
I don't think I've ever seen that. I mean, you think back to about a year or two ago in San Bernardino where they were firing shots from a helicopter. That was a wild pursuit. I have not seen anything quite like this in terms of the tactics they're taking here. But again, they're in a desperate situation with a guy who's heavily armed in one of their own vehicles. Now he's got that driver's side spotlight on, that floodlight. He's got his lights and sirens on, and he is now speeding through the San Fernando Valley in what can only be described as a wild and crazy police pursuit. Another LA classic here, guys.
Well, it's a very scary situation for the Sheriff's Department right now. This man that we're following, you're looking at a sheriff's vehicle, but someone stole this vehicle, and we don't have it confirmed yet, from a psychiatric ward. There are weapons inside the sheriff's vehicle, we're being told, and this man is just driving erratically through the streets. Police did, as you just saw, Sheriff's Department kind of trapped him and then shots fired into the vehicle.
Yeah, we're continuing, by the way, south on White Oak, and the next major is going to be Van Owen, I believe, but he's going to have the option of getting on the 101 in the next couple of minutes here. So he's going to be coming up on the 101. We're continuing southbound through Reseda on White Oak Avenue, and we have more officers coming up. I can tell you LA County Sheriff and LAPD circling at a very low altitude as they continue to track this guy. Also something that we see, but that the altitude that they're flying at, they are very low, right above this guy. And again, continuing southbound on White Oak, coming up on the 101 very shortly here, guys.
It seems like the sheriffs, oh, there they are, okay, had backed off a little bit, but now I see the other sheriff vehicles getting a little closer again. And we've seen this, Chris, a couple of times, that they're trying to get really close to the stolen sheriff's vehicle and kind of block him. They didn't try the pit maneuver. They just kind of got in front of him, and then he backed into another sheriff's vehicle.
And it was at least the third time that we watched them do that. At one point, they did it in the middle of an intersection. At another point, they actually went around traffic to try and cut him off at the pass. Unusual tactics, to say the least. And now we find ourselves in this situation. He might be pulling over here. At least he's slowing down. Yeah, he's pulled over. Now we have officers behind him, LA County Sheriff's deputies behind him, possibly driver's side door open.
It seems like there's someone walking out. Do you see him right there?
That's an officer.
It does.
Okay.
That's an officer right there. He's going to be behind this tree.
The guy going down on his knees? No, that was him going down on his knees. There you go.
Yeah.
I think he just went down. There you go. He seemed to be wearing white.
We're coming up on the other side of this tree here. Looks like that driver's side door is indeed open, and the driver is now on the ground.
Now, Chris, it'll be interesting.
He is being taken into custody. Wow. Guys, I don't know if I've seen anything like that in quite some time. Seriously.
And also to end as easily as this thing ended after all the difficulty of this pursuit.
He could have been wounded because one of the
he
sheriffs.
may very well. Yeah, I see blood on his shoulder there. He does appear to be injured. He is wearing a pair of shorts, but that's about it. And he is going to be taken into custody immediately here and waiting for an ambulance until he can get checked out here. But obviously a very unstable individual going through some very desperate measures to try and evade authorities here. This could have ended so much worse, guys. I don't have to tell you. That could have been a much scarier conclusion. But just knocking on wood that ended as peacefully as it did.
You're absolutely right. And we didn't see the normal end. You know the procedure at the end, the dance on the ground, the commands, the steps taken. They just took this guy and put him away right now.
And
they wasted no time approaching him. That was, and they know, and especially considering knowing that he has weapons in the vehicle, the way they approached him. Now, it does appear that he opened that driver's side door. So once he opened that driver's side door and exited the vehicle, I don't think they did that he did that under their command. But once he did that, they had to approach him and take him into custody. Fortunately, they were able to see that his hands were empty, so he wasn't in possession of any of the firearms inside that vehicle.
Right.
But man, what a wild end here. We'll come around to see if there's actual gunshots through that driver's side window. But again, it does appear that that driver was injured, possibly as a result of gunfire.
Yeah, it seemed like we could see on the screen that he did have blood on his right shoulder when he was walking away.
Yeah, that's what it looked like.
And so, you know, everyone might remember just now when the sheriff's department came up to him, he took out his gun and started firing right there. When I saw it, I thought, is he going to try to blow out his tires? But I think they were in a situation where it was frightening for everyone, and it could have caused a lot more damage. So they were like, we got to get to this.
In all of the pursuits we've seen, the hundreds of pursuits we've seen, seeing an officer jump out of the car and start firing, I think is the first time we've ever encountered that.
I've never seen it.
I've never seen anything like that. And the way they kept trying to cut him off, they just bailed on their typical pit maneuver strategy and just tried to stop him at all costs. The commander in this situation gave the go-ahead to do whatever it takes to get this guy off the road, and for obvious reason. I mean, he was jumping onto sidewalks, he was jumping onto the curb, he was in oncoming lanes of traffic, and they were equally desperate to bring this to an end, but in a way that we just have not seen typically in the past, despite all of the pursuits that we see every day. This was definitely an unusual one.
In case you've just joined us, let's take you through. A situation developed, a pursuit developed. The description was a psychiatric patient. It may have started in the northern San Gabriel Valley, headed over to the San Fernando Valley. We have some video of what, first of all, some of the more frightening moments, driving on the sidewalk.
Yeah, remember,
right
this is a sheriff's vehicle that was stolen. So what you're looking at is sheriffs pursuing that first sheriff's vehicle in the front. He went up on the sidewalk there and then went around the corner. This was right before he almost hit a school bus, but the school bus stopped because this guy had his lights on and his siren.
And then something that was really rare to see. What happens is,
right here, you're going to see
slow him down here. Watch what happens.
So there's a sheriff's vehicle in front now at this time. The one being pursued is the car backing up. You'll see a sheriff get out of his vehicle with his gun drawn. He fires into the car, and then the car keeps driving. The sheriffs keep the pursuit. Here it is one more time. Second car. He starts backing up. You're going to see the officer get out of his vehicle.
Unbelievable.
Gun drawn, fires into the car. Now, this is when the pursuit becomes even more erratic, and then it starts to end, and we believe from what we saw
That he was shot.
That he was shot, and then he gave himself up. There he is getting out of the vehicle and being walked away. It was pretty scary, and I'm sure tense for the sheriff's department during this entire pursuit, because they didn't know if he had access to the weapons that are inside this vehicle. I think that's what I would presume why they were so aggressive.
And we don't know.
Well, at that point, once he backed up into that sheriff's deputy, this became assault with a deadly weapon on a law enforcement officer. And at that point, it was really all bets off. And it was surprising, to say the very least, to see that one officer get so close on foot when he exited the vehicle. A very daring move. But at that point, once he backed up into the other sheriff's deputy's vehicle, I don't think that officer had a choice but to use force in that situation. And it certainly appears that he may have actually hit the suspect in that case, because, as you mentioned, we did see some blood as he exited the vehicle. And that may very well be why this individual decided to give up in the end. He may have been in so much pain, and he just realized that this was the end. He had to pull over. He may not have
we
been
don't know
able to drive much further.
The backstory, the medical history, the story with this guy. Hey, Chris, thank you very much. Before we go, again, that moment that we showed you a little earlier, which was so unusual and so dangerous.
First vehicle is the actual sheriff's vehicle. The second one is the one that was being pursued, that was stolen. He backs into the second sheriff's, and then there's the guns.
You got it, guys.